Hello and welcome back to another episode of Escaping Kerbin, where we aim to put a Kerbal on one of the outer planets, either Duna or Eve or one of the moons of Jewel, or we'll see what we get there. We're using a mod that that hides most of our solar system, so we're going to have to discover it for ourselves. So this series is all about exploration, and in that sense, today we are going to be taking another huge step forward in the name of exploration, in the name of conquest of this solar system of ours. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're back. We have a bunch of science to spend. You can see here we unlocked quite a bit. We're working our way through the important nodes and trying to get, ultimately, our next big goal is to get through these 3 nodes here so we can get the science lab. And that's when we can really start getting some real science. So we go ahead and unlock heavier rocketry, because that's going to give us the Pila engine, which is the heart and soul of my space program. We're just, kind of looking through here to see where, what would be most effective. We go ahead and take the space exploration. One of the major things that gives us is the rover body, and so we can start using that instead of that makeshift rocket rover that we had before. So we go ahead and just look through the contracts available, see if there's anything that can assist us, especially if it can give us an advance. I don't really feel like taking any of the tourist contracts. Alright, so yeah, let's get started. The main mission today is going to do a flyby of Minmus. Try to get as much science as we can, so we go ahead and stack 4 thermometers and 4 pressure barometers, 4 of the target scanning cameras. And we go ahead and set them all to action groups 1 through 4. We put a probe core up there on top, so that way we can do remote tech flight computer maneuvers. I debated on how to utilize the space in here, whether or not I was going to do batteries, but we ended up going for supplies. We just threw 2 batteries in there on the side as well, and then we're just going to go ahead and tuck our magnetometer booms in there and attach them to action groups as well as the telemetry report and the crew report. So all of our science will be able to be done at the press of a button. The materials bay, however, is we're only going to be doing 1, and we're going to be accessing that manually. And the reason why we're using this command pod is because it's got 2 seats, and we're going to put a scientist in there. But first I have to make sure that we can even exit the pod. I didn't know, this is my first time dealing with that, didn't know where the doors were, so as you can see the ladder's not in the correct place. So it was a good test to kind of figure out how that's going to go. The other thing I wanted to test out was see on the inside, see what its IVA mode kind of looked like. Wasn't very thrilled with it. Not going to be using it. But then again, I haven't downloaded any kind of IVA replacer, so maybe there's a better one out there. So we're going to go ahead and revert back to the VAB and continue this build. So I'm going to put ladders on both sides for the doors, just in case our scientist is on the other side. We want to make sure that they can climb down the ladder no matter where it's at. So we go ahead, and then now we're adding solar panels and radiators and a communication dish. That communication dish is going to be useful for transmitting our science, because we're going to transmit anything that allows us a full yield. Because if this mission ends up failing, at least we can get some science out of it to hopefully build a higher quality rescue vehicle. So here we are. This is pretty over-engineered, but I just, you know, thought about it and I'm like, you know, go big or go home, right? And so we're gonna go big and come home. There we go. We got our side boosters, and our main. I forget what engine that is. I don't think it's the mainsail, but. And then we put 2 solid rocket boosters on this top of that, facing retrograde, so that way we can deorbit that and save ourselves from having too much space debris. And now it's just the final checks and going through and making sure my staging is correct. At some point in there, I threw on some explosive devices on top of those 2 side boosters for that upper stage. Those ones right there. Because I had a feeling that those boosters would end up going out while we were still in a high elliptical orbit above Kerbin, and I didn't want them, again, I didn't want them floating around as space trash, so I decided we're going to test out these explosives. It's from one of the mods listed in the description below. Can't remember off the top of my head right now. And here we are at the launch pad. And then here we are in space. Because we're just testing out... I want to test out the explosives. So we're just getting rid of that lower stage because we don't need it. And we armed the explosives as we separated the stage and then took off. I had them set for 15 seconds, and I felt that that was a little too high. I didn't think we needed that much time. So now I'm going in here, and it turns out I didn't even have a scientist at all, so I had to go to the astronaut complex and hire one. So there I just turned down the countdown timer to about 5 seconds because that's all we're going to need. We're going to be boosting away from it, so we should cover enough distance. And here we are getting ready for liftoff. And it's a sluggish takeoff. And so I decided to kill the engines, come back down safely. And we're going to just bring this back into the VAB. And in a very Kerbal sense, we're going to throw on more boosters. And once again, they also get the small SRBs to deorbit them themselves and bring them back to the surface. We threw some parachutes on them as well. We're going to try to collect the funds for all the stages if we can. All except for those that we are going to be exploding. So yeah, it's a huge stage list, but it's that early game rocketry, and again, definitely over-engineered. But look at that, much better takeoff. And having a better thrust to weight ratio, especially at the beginning, is going to make it more efficient because our rocket won't use up all the fuel just trying to get up to a decent speed. So it works out for the best. And we're just gonna turn ever so slightly. We have a lot of control over this rocket. The engines have really great gimbaling. We got 2 swivels on it. I believe there's a reaction wheel somewhere in here, so it's a nice, easy rocket to control. It's a It's a good way of letting you know that you're no longer in the early game, when you can fly rockets with a lot of ease. So now I want to just take a second and look around. I don't do this too often with the pause menu and the F2. Kind of really look around. So I thought that was kind of fun. Had all those fireworks going. I didn't need SRBs on the top of those, but you know, it was fun to see, and it did get them safely away from our craft, so that's always good. So now we're just doing a little bit of a roll to get those side boosters horizontal to our position. But I don't think it would have mattered because, once again, those SRBs do quite a good job of separating. You know, they're really easy early game separatrons. A little more costly. Definitely has a lot more mass, but, you know, they get the job done. So here we are, coming up to altitude and getting ready to work on circularization. There we go, we plotted in using the precise maneuver. Lets us do a one-button circularization. It's always nice. And then we also plot that into flight computer. And then as you see, we got rid of our fairing, and we're extending all of our solar panels and communication dishes. And now we're just going to execute our burn and circularize our orbit. And this lower stage has plenty of thrust, so it takes us no time at all. But as you can see, we still have plenty of fuel. I mean, by plenty of fuel, we don't have a lot, but we have plenty of fuel to do everything that we need to do here. Because it's Minmus, we're going to have to adjust our relative inclination. It's just the way that it is. So we go ahead and get ourselves pointed anti-normal. And we're just gonna time warp a little bit, get ourselves closer to the maneuver. And of course we end up going into the dark side. So we're just going to watch the maneuver being done in the map screen, because at least we can see more of what's going on that way. And because it's flight computer, it is relatively precise. So we don't have to worry. We've got a nice inclination, so we're gonna have a smooth equatorial approach. Once again, we're using precise maneuver to just kind of ease our way through here, and we want a nice low periapsis. We want to really skim by this thing. There's a beautiful planet just going on underneath us. Not quite as beautiful as the real planet. We've been excitedly playing real solar system in our other series. Can't wait to start to do our first orbit and really get a look at that planet. Alright, there we go. We separate our lower stage, and it's going to go ahead and deorbit itself. It's gonna explode in the atmosphere. It's gonna be excellent. So I have a lot of wobbling going on right now. So what I'm doing is I'm turning down the gimbal control. That if you have a lot of wobbling from your engine, that typically helps. And our orbit extends, and we end up overshooting. We're just gonna have to flip around a little bit, and then I overshot once again because our engines are just quite powerful for being such a tiny little thing. I'm just tapping and just easing it on in there. So now I'm just shutting down the two side engines and just using just the center one. So that should lower my thrust and give me a little bit more control as I bring the periapsis in. And I also decide to do a maneuver midway, a correction burn to bring myself equatorial again. And I gotta really tune down my my throttle. Really gotta limit that so it's extra low, so that way I can burn slowly enough to have accuracy, and I don't spend all my time in fuel just recorrecting. So now that we have the chance, we're gonna do some science, because apparently X Science told us that we haven't done it yet, not these experiments. And after we do that, we go ahead and get our scientist out and collect the data from the Science Junior, and then restore it. And we're going to collect the data from the magnetometer. And go ahead and come back on inside. The scientist is going to be doing a lot of this in this mission. The whole point of bringing her along and only having one Science Junior is that we can run it multiple times and just reset it. We're just gonna time warp out to that maneuver. And here we go. And you can see it just slowly ticks down. Once again, that's because our throttle is limited so much that it makes just tiny incremental changes. And because we're doing it so far away, it's making big changes. I hit the throttle button by accident, just the shift key. So now I have to go and readjust that. But it's okay because I needed to bring in my periapsis anyways. I want to get nice and close. That way we know we're in low space. We don't even have to worry about accidentally shooting past, never getting into low space. Gotta be careful with that time warp. Once again, we have Kerbal Eclipse. Killed our solar panels, lost our Kerbal knots, lost electricity for a little bit. It's okay, they're trained for such things, sitting in the dark, eating their snacks. So I see the sun is there, so I go ahead and just kind of turn my craft to better accommodate the solar panels. Because we're going to want to have SAS control coming back in. I go ahead and check the stage recovery pop-up, and I see that we actually have recovered 3 pieces already. I don't remember if we check it before we completed this mission to see how many pieces we recovered total, but I have faith in the mod, and I have faith that our parachutes were enough that I think we're just gonna go ahead and say that we recovered them all. Alright, so now we are in space high above Minmus. So now we've got all this science to do. Maybe I just doing them each one by one, and then come down here. I fell off the ladder, which was a little nerve-wracking, because I wasn't at a very good angle to grab onto it either. And I wasn't prepared to be using my RCS. But yeah, it turns out the ladder and the door to the service bay were clipping into each other and blocking. And that right there, that move that I did was very dangerous. As soon as I did it, I realized that I could have sent my Kerbal flying. And that wouldn't be good, you know? So, always, it's always good to remember that space is just death waiting to happen at every turn. So now we're just gonna time warp close to the close to Minmus. Yeah, we finally made it after a whole series KSP POV where we only went to the Mun. You know, we exhausted our interest in the Mun a little bit. But now we have Minmus. And honestly, we did it this way because we thought we were gonna discover Minmus sooner in the last playthrough, but instead it gave us Jewel for some reason. And that kind of screwed with our progression because we weren't able to get the science that we needed to kind of progress in order to even get to Jewel. So we decided to change the parameters around for this series, and it allowed us to be aware of Minmus as well. So yeah, so we are going to be sending probes here as well. We need to make a satellite network for it. We've got a lot of work, but it's all in the name of escaping Kerbin. Yeah, look at all that science. And do another crew report. Go ahead and take that. And we just time warp as we slip away from the minty green ball. And I'm reviewing the data here so that way I can go ahead and transmit anything that gives us full science for transmitting. Once again, you know, if anything happens to this, we'll be able to at least utilize that. It won't be an entire waste. Now it's just time to bring it on home. You know, this mission is considered a success. I don't think I complete any contracts, but that is just something that we had to just accept. You know, we're not going to get any money from this except for completing, you know, world firsts. Milestones and whatnot, but overall this was just a trip for science. Go ahead and look at our resources. We still have plenty as long as we don't overshoot our target, which will cost us days of life support. So it's very important that we hit our maneuver when we should. But we have flight computer handling it, and it should kill our time warp. It always kills it 3 minutes before the maneuver, and then you can fast forward it again, and it'll kill it 3 seconds before the maneuver. So as long as you're not going too fast, it's pretty reliable. So I just jump in real fast, jump out, grab a crew report. And we're just going to bring our apoapsis down. circularize our orbit. Make it a little bit more reasonable so that way when we come in, we're not coming in too hot. And there we go, nice circular orbit. So I start by placing my maneuver at the periapsis, but then I realized the apoapsis would do me a little bit better, since you're going the slowest at your apoapsis. That's the slowest time of your orbit, so it's the best time to slow down your orbit because you're already going slow. Conversely, the periapsis is the fastest part of your orbit, so that's why if you're trying to extend your apoapsis, doing it at the periapsis is best because you're already going so fast. And the burn is handled very easily. Once again, I bring my orbit down, but now we are going to be focusing on re-entry. So we go ahead and turn on the trajectories mod to see where our final landing point is going to be, and we go ahead and just move our orbit around, play around with the nodes to try to just line it up as close as we can to the KSC. That is our goal. We're going to try to get as much money from this as possible. And also, you know, to prove to ourselves that we can land in a specific area if we want to. We can do it. We have the skill. And now I go ahead and separate the side boosters, but I also forget that I changed it to 5 seconds, and I was expecting to already be burning at the time, so they would just scooch on by me, but of course they didn't, because I didn't plan for that. But luckily I hit the gas right at the last moment and was able to separate myself, so that way we didn't cause any damage to our own rocket. But that was cool. It was a really cool test of the explosives, and I think I might consider having those on our crafts going forward. Especially with stages that I know I'm not going to be able to crash into a surface. So that will be a great way of keeping our Kessler syndrome down. So now here I'm plotting in another maneuver. Because we have a full tank of gas, so we might as well use it, right? And so I'm plotting in another one to really fine-tune that landing. And of course, we're on the dark side of the moon, or the dark side of Kerbin, so we can't see anything. So we're just gonna do this burn in the map view. And it's still not perfect, but we're still not in the atmosphere, so we can plot even more maneuvers. Here we are making another burn. And that's pretty close. It's a little closer to the Cove launch site, so now I'm just gonna bring it down again. And we're gonna plot that into Flight Computer and execute it. And with that, I think we're pretty happy. So we're gonna go ahead and just jettison that stage. It's gonna crash into the ground, so that's good. and we collect a crew report in the atmosphere, as well as an EVA report. We do a little bit of science. We retract our solar panels, which also, or retract our communication dishes, which also activates our radiator and arms our parachute. The solar panel, however, is non-retractable. We knew that going into it. We just kind of planned for that. It's just going to have to burn off in the atmosphere. There's not really anything we can do for that. And I'm utilizing the classic spin technique to distribute the heat evenly across the craft. I'm surprised though at how long the solar panel stays. I for sure thought we were going to end up bringing it down with us entirely. I actually assumed that it would have been broken off by now, so the fact that it stuck on for as long as it did was a little surprising. But it's nice, we can see the KSC coming up over the horizon. Or the icon for it anyways. There we go. The solar panel broke off. We're still spinning because we're getting a heat bar somewhere in there. Most likely in the Science Junior, which is never great because that thing just loves exploding, and once you get one part exploding, it's very easy for the rest of it to just start going. So it was a little nerve-wracking. We ended up being on fire for a lot longer than I wanted, but it is also encouraging to see the KSC come up real fast. However, we slowed down more than the trajectories had planned out for, so we are going to be landing a little short of our goal. But it's still nice to know that we can still get close enough, and we're just going to work on that, and then we'll be better. We'll be a functioning space agency. You know, you watch. Soon we're going to be having space planes and SSTOs and all that grand jazz. So just doing some more science while I have the chance to, since we're going slow enough that I was able to get my Kerbal out on EVA without a problem. And then we land in the grasslands, which again, we can do a little bit more science. So let's just go ahead and grab that, because that's what this whole mission is about. It's just getting as much science as we possibly can. Look at that. Look at that beautiful number. We've got so much to work with now. We're going to be doing some great things with all these stuff we're going to unlock. I think I considered for a second upgrading the research and development, but I decided to hold off and save my money for now. But anyways, that's going to be the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching it. If you liked it, please consider giving me a like, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.